Hi and welcome. Good morning, good evening and good afternoon wherever you are at the time you are tuning in to listen to this video. I'm Jim Beards, former British scientist in the field of geomagnetics, have been for the last 10 years. We've owned an official observatory for the last 4 years studying the progression of the magnetic North Pole migration. As you guys know, it's the 17th of the month, and on this day we pop out the SD cards out of our equipment and we process that data for you guys, and we give you a pinpoint location of where we are right now with the Earth going through its current magnetic pole migration. This is only able to be done by the fact that a few people take that extraordinary effort to make a donation to this observatory. It's a publicly funded effort on an international scale, and it requires just a few minutes of people's time in order for us to get it together so that we can raise a few funds. I know it's not easy, but for those few people that do that, a huge thanks and kudos to you. You're contributing to something much larger than what you think. I've said it many times before, we're not like other subscribers on YouTube. We don't just talk the talk, we walk the walk. And those that have been following us for the last decade know that we have made some pretty significant advances in the knowledge of what is taking place right now with our Earth. I know you're going to enjoy the latter part of this video, so on with it. NASA claims that variations in the Earth's magnetic field aren't causing today's climate change. But on the other hand, NASA announces that rivers on Mars evaporated 3.3 billion years ago. NASA is also aware that the magnetosphere collapsed around about that time, and that at that time that it had rivers, it also had an atmosphere. And when the magnetosphere collapsed on Mars, it left the atmosphere subject to a term that even NASA have claimed themselves as sputtering. This is an erosion of the upper atmosphere, and once the upper atmosphere has dissolved, then the oceans on Mars were subject to the same fatality. And I ask the question, how can the geomagnetics of any planet not have an influence on its climate when clearly Mars no longer has a climate? Before we go over to having a look at the geomagnetic North Pole position on this current date, I just thought I'd show you some of the backdoor work that we're doing at the moment on glacial and interglacial periods during excursions over the last 600,000 years. First of all, the last geomagnetic completed reversal was 780,000 years ago, but there has been some excursions. Now, a point to clear up first and foremost, which doesn't particularly become clear when other people talk about this on YouTube, is that excursions are not completed reversals for any short period of time. They are just points in time where the magnetic field has weakened to a certain degree but has never gone over the 0 degree mark where it has reversed the polarity. So what we're looking at on this chart is interglacial and glacial periods marked in right on the horizontal lines, and what we're trying to do right now is effort whether they had any impact during interglacial and glacial periods with regards to magnetic excursions. That's what we're trying to do, and we'll talk more about this at a later date. One thing that we're interested in particular is measuring the vector of the angle of how fast it went into a reversal, or at least an excursion. And obviously that can give us an idea of time period of how fast events can happen. So we're going to get back to this at a later date, but the main point is excursions are not reversals. They are just mere weakening of the magnetic field like we're experiencing right now. Current trimag data is up on the website poleshiftnews.com if you want to go over there and have a look. You can also have a look at the magnetosphere data, as well as data on other anomalies that is taking place currently on our Earth. But basically, I know it's hard to interpret it, but what you see is like a straight line. But what we can say by looking at the data, and what you've got to appreciate here is that we are looking at data which is 254,000 data packets long. And what we're seeing when we look at the raw data, and we're going to show this at a later point, we're going to have a look at this data so that you get an idea of what we see and what we can zoom in on at any point, because it's high resolution, is a number that regularly occurs. That's 13.37 at the moment. And the higher that goes and the more it maintains, gives us an indication that the current magnetic pole is migrating at a certain speed. And you're going to want to know at what position that is, or what that correlates to. That's what we're about to show you. A quick look at the current magnetosphere data reveals everything is nominal, and that's a good thing. You wouldn't know if it weren't for us recording that data every 15 minutes over the month that things were normal. Organisations or people that, like I've mentioned before on YouTube, talk about these subjects but have no measuring equipment to measure what they're actually talking about, and relying on data that is being pumped out of these mainstream organisations. They would not know whether it was true or not. At least when we have our own data and we collect our own data, we know what the score is with that. And we should be thankful that nothing dramatically has changed over the last month. But here is the point: we have the equipment which is constantly out there. It's not just here in the UK. We've got this equipment, we've got it in Arizona, currently in Canada and in Australia, and we are going to get it in Russia by the end of the year. Promise you this, I will have it in Russia by the end of the year, Brazil, and hopefully South Africa. And when things do change, we will know, and we will relay that back to you. That's the important thing. Let's have a look at the current location of the magnetic North Pole. And ladies and gentlemen, here we go. On the 17th of the 2nd, 2022, the magnetic North Pole is currently maintaining an average speed of 5.25 miles per month, which puts its current location at a latitude of 82 degrees by 37 hours 27 minutes 88 seconds north, longitude 119 degrees by 24 hours 32 minutes 24 seconds east. If you're following it on your Google Earth, those are the coordinates, and we're just going to pull out now and see where that is in the progression of where it's travelling right now along that corridor to just below the Antarctic Circle in Russia. You can see we're over now just almost halfway across the mid-Atlantic ridge, and we are heading, let's just get rid of that, on a course easterly for central Russia. If you recall on the maps that I've shown previously, that is the epicenter. That is exactly where the magnetic North Pole is heading. Remember, your mainstream organisations who are supposed to know everything about the geomagnetics of the planet are not even talking about this. They're not talking about the two epicenters at the moment over the northern highest intensities are, i.e. one in Canada, one in Russia, and they're not talking about why the magnetic pole started to migrate. You only heard that here. And when you hear of other people, as I have recently, discuss that 40 degrees mark where the magnetic dipole crosses from the strong field lines into the weak field lines, you know where that come from. It could have only come from one place. And I'm quite shocked as to when these people, and they know who they are, talk about it, do not in any way, shape or form give any credibility to the maverickstar Observatory for that, because that 40-degree mark originated here based on the experiments that we conducted. That's why, guys, we are unlike any other YouTube channel. We're not relying on mainstream organisation. We're not definitely regurgitating any rubbish that is, spewed out of these major departments. We are researching and collecting our own data and revealing that to you. And that is why when organisations like NASA come out with the statement that, the current climate situation that we're faced with has nothing to do with geomagnetics, and we present evidence to rebut that, we say, look at this. How can you say such a thing? Look what happened to Mars. Look what happened when it lost its upper atmosphere. Look what happened to its waters on its surface when it lost just its magnetosphere. How can you say that that is not related to the planet's climate? Stay tuned, guys. There's more to come. There's a link down there if you want to help support our observatory, and I know it requires a little bit of effort. Sometimes to fill out that form requires a bit of effort. But you know what? We wouldn't be here today talking about what we are, and we wouldn't have that data that we've got today if it wasn't for people forthcoming with a bit of funding. Link is down there in the description. Guys, as always, you have an amazing day. Take care of your loved ones. As always. Bye for now.